That's the main goal of life. Some sort of pleasure. And a person who's busy having pleasure, you don't disturb him. If he's not disturbing anybody else, you don't disturb that person. Whatever he wants, that's what he can do.
What was Nashva,
Nishbar, broken. V'nidke, and crushed.
And what's Kati?
Katid is another word for crushed. But katid is the word that's used in the Torah.
Yes.
Why? Because a person has a right to express his nature. Well, says the Rebbe, the nature of every Jew really is that he believes in God. And he wants to do what God said. A Jew has two natures. That's what it says in the Tanya, two souls. A Jew has two natures. One nature is to be like everybody else. That just, to do your thing. And some people like baseball, and some people like, boxing, and some people like drugs, and some people like making money, and some people like all of it. Some people like, so let everybody have their natures. And if you have a little bit of problems, you go to a psychiatrist, you go to somebody that gives you more enjoyment in life. You can enjoy life. You have a nature, and it is no one has a right to take away a person's nature. Of a person's nature, he wants to enjoy life. Let him enjoy it. With the problem, you can't stop a person from enjoying it. That's his nature. Says the Rebbe, every Jew has two natures. The inside nature of a Jew is a Jew enjoys doing what God wants. He enjoys it. It's his nature. He believes in God and he has pleasure from doing what God wants. That's what every Jew is. No one has a right to impinge on that nature, but that's what Gullus does. That's what exile is. Exile is crushing that nature, making it that Jews are not able and don't even want to follow that true nature that's inside. Making Jews crazy. The world is all against us. Our natures are against us. Our education systems, everything is against us. That's called exile. That's called exile. And sometimes it comes out in the most bizarre forms where people actually can become religious. They can become, and they can do Torah, and they can do misses, and they can do this, but they hate every other Jew. Any Jew is not like me, I hate him. Right? A Jew doesn't live in Israel, Jew doesn't put on a hat like me, or a beard like me, or this, I hate the guy. That's exile. That's called exile. Right? The Jewish soul does not want that. The Jewish soul wants to love everybody and everybody. Of course, there's some people who do wrong, so you tell them, but in a way of love. Everybody has to be. That's the nature. Sometimes you have to fight battles, but everything is done according to exactly what God wants to be done. That's every Jew wants that. That's what a Jew says. But now, when the Jewish people, therefore, when the Jewish people are in exile, they are crushed and they are broken. They are crushed and they are broken. They're not allowed to do what the Jewish soul wants. Right? The blacks in America had a big war. Women had a big war in America. You're not letting people do what they want, what they're able to do. Right? The blacks can be tremendously talented people just like everybody else. No, black skin, you're out. You sit in the back of the bus. Can't go into university. Can't do this. Why not? Let me do who I am. Let me show you my potential. No, don't want it. Women can't do it. Right? Can't show my potential. Why not? They have a right to demand their rights. The same thing, the godly soul has a right to demand this right. Who are you going to demand it from? Who are you supposed to demand it from? No one to demand it from. That's called exile. That's exile. Right? You give a Jew freedom in America. Do whatever you want. What does he want to do? Act like the Goyim. I want to act like the non-Jews as much as possible. That's what I want. That's not what you want. You don't want to do that. You want to be an example of what is right, what is justice, and what is happiness, and what is wholesomeness, and what is integrity. You want to be an example of what a Jew is, be a representative of the Creator of the universe. No, don't want to. That's exile. That's called exile. It says, in the time of exile, the Jewish soul is crushed, and it's broken. But, al yadezeh, by means of this, by means of the being crushed and broken in exile, making you reach lemeor, to the source of light, the etzem, the essence of your soul, shemimenu, from it, nimsa, comes out, or not just the light, but the source of light. Not just the light, but the source of light. And there's one person, like the time of Mordechai and Esther. Nobody's going to talk about this in long length. In order for a person to say, in the time of Mordechai, in the time of Esther, in the time of the Holocaust, in the time in Russia, in communist Russia, to say I'm a Jew, you had to be nuts. You had to be totally crazy. And you had to be totally insane. In order to do anything like that, and that's true Judaism. That's Judaism. Right? That you don't care about the world, you don't care, all you want to do is good. You're not interested in what the world says. The whole world can be communist, and the world says if it's against Judaism, I'm not going to do it. Says, you're nuts. What are you gaining from it? Absolutely nothing. He says, what am I gaining? I am gaining nothing except for the truth. He says, oh, that's called the source of light. That's called the source of light. That's just called the light. That's called light. By means of this, you reach to the or you reach to the essence that from it comes all light. It's sort of loud, and we have to understand Hashaykh is the connection. The Haperush to the meaning. To Katit L'Ma'or, when it says crushed up for the illuminator, Hamavor, which is explained in a Maamar before this, to what it says Moshe, as Pashtusa delay, and the representative of Moshe in every generation, Zun feeds, Umafarnas, and provides for the faith. Shetiyeh, that it should be, the Peninius, that it should be in your side of your personality. So two things. One thing it says that by the time of exile reveals inner powers inside of a Jew, the essence of the soul that's the source of all spirituality, not just spirituality, but the source of all spirituality. That's number one. And on the other hand, it says that Moses, in his generation, increases the faith of the Jews, seeming to imply that he sort of naturally takes away the exile. He teaches you so that you become, they say, you become an adept at Judaism. Right? So on one hand, it says that the only way to reveal your true Jewish soul is when there is exile and it's difficult and you have a war, self-sacrifice. And on the other hand, it says, no, all you have to do is be taught. Moses teaches everybody, and he teaches, and he increases your faith. What's the fact? What's the connection? Hine, behold, Abir, you with me, Shmuel? Not? Okay. Hine, behold, Abir, the explanation, the pasuk in the sentence, V'ata Tetzaveh, Ba comes in the Maamar, Behemshech, in the continuation, Lam Mavur, to what's explained, Petzechilat HaMaamar, the beginning of the Maamar. The previous Rebbe, we're going back. This Maamar is an explanation of the previous Rebbe's discourse that he made. This discourse that the Rebbe said in 1981 is explaining the Maamar of the previous Rebbe that he said in 1927. What was the Maamar in previous 27? There it was talking as a Maamar. It's a Maamar about Purim. And in Purim, right near the end of the Megillah, after the Jewish people had this tremendous self-sacrifice, it says that the Jewish people, Kibul HaYehudim, that the Jewish people received Et asher heichelu la'asot, that which they began to do. It's a sentence in right near the end of the Megillah of Purim. The Jewish people received that which they began to do. What does it mean? They received what they began to do. It says also in the Gemara, who is it says shekiblu, that they received. The Jews in Purim received Mashehechelu, what they began Bizman, in the time of Matan Torah, of the giving of the Torah. The Jewish people received, they actually accepted what they began in Matan Torah. Now, when was Matan Torah? Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, was about 1,000 years before the miracle of Purim. The Torah was given approximately 1,000 years before the miracle of Purim. The miracle of Purim happened between the first and second temples, and the Torah was given 480 years, something 90 years before the first temple was built. The Torah was given 480 years before the first temple was built. The first temple stood for 410 years, and right at the end of that time, there was 70 years in exile. So it was about 1,000 years, 900 years before the miracle of Purim. The Jews got the Torah. When the Jews got the Torah, they received the whole Torah. They knew all the laws. They did all the laws. They built the temple. They had a temple. They did all these. They knew all the laws. They received the Torah. It says no, they didn't receive the Torah. They began receiving the Torah. They began receiving the Torah on on Mount Sinai. But when did they actually completely receive it? In the miracle of Purim. That's when they actually completely received it. Why? It's 1,000 years. They only began at Mount Sinai, and 1,000 years later, in the miracle of Purim, that's when they actually accepted it. Why? The Matan Torah, the Matan Torah Hayata was Hatchala, the beginning, Heichelu Lasot, Ubiyamei Achashverosh, in the days of Achashverosh, Bizaman, at the time of Gezeres Haman, the decree of Haman. Hayata was HaKabbalah, the accepting. Did I give you the next page? Did I hand up? Oh no, this is the same page, I'm sorry. This was the acceptance. Bekibel Yehudim, like it says, the Jews accepted. Al derech, like that's the name of the Maamar of this essay of the previous Rebbe. Al derech, like the rabbis say on the pasuk, Kimu bekiblo Yehudim. Another sentence that says in the Megillah of Purim, it says, fulfilled and received the Jews. Kimu, the Jews fulfilled what they received already in Mount Sinai. And in both sentences it means that the completion of the Torah, the completion was only on Purim. The completion of what was begun at Mount Sinai was only Purim. The Zeh, that this Shektim, or that the Jewish people preceded. Na'aseh l'nishma, we will do, and we will understand that Mount Torah, that was Hayata Rak HaKabbalah. That was only that they got it. They got it. Like you go to the store and you buy a suit. You get the suit. But only in the days of Achashverosh, but 1,000 years later, Kimu, they actually wore the suit. They actually fulfilled, they did Mashikidu, what they did. What they accepted.
It's not a good plan. Just buy one 1,000 years beforehand. And gain some weight, probably lose some size, and really fit it.
That's exactly the point. The Jews did actually fulfill the Torah 1,000 years later, and they saw that it fit. But it says that it essentially doesn't make any sense. What do you mean that they only fulfilled the Torah 1,000 years later? They've been doing the Torah for 1,000 years. They had the Beis HaMikdash, they had the Holy Temple, they were doing the sacrifices. They knew all the laws. Everyone knew all the laws. They didn't even have to write it down. Right? They only had to write it down at the end of the second temple, when they started forgetting, when there was exile. But in the first temple, everybody knew all the laws. How can you say they only fulfilled the Torah on Purim? And what did they do on Purim that was so great? What did they do on Purim that was so great that only then they fulfilled it? What everybody all of a sudden realized that their tefillin weren't straight or something. Well, what did they do? Right? 1,000 years they've been putting on their tzitzis the wrong way, or they've been keeping Shabbos on Tuesday instead of that. Oh wow, we made a mistake. What were they doing wrong all the time? The Rebbe is going to say that what happened on Purim was the essence of the Torah. The essence of the Torah. A person can do the Torah and forget about the attitude of Abraham. Abraham was the first Jew. Abraham didn't have the Torah. It says that he did the whole Torah before it was given, but he didn't have the Torah. The attitude of Abraham was, whatever God wants me to do, that's what I'll do. Even if it's totally against my nature, totally against the whole world, I'm only going to do what God wants. And that's how Abraham received the whole Torah before it was given. And it's only interested in what God wants. I'm not interested at all in myself. All I am is a creation. I don't care if I go to heaven, if I go to hell, if I'm rich, if I'm poor. That's not my business. That's God's business. He created me. All of a sudden I'm caring about what happened to me. Please don't make noise, please. I'm caring about what's going to be with me, and I'm going to have other. I'm just a creation. It's easy to say these things, but to do it, almost impossible. In fact, the Jewish people did not do it. For 1,000 years, they didn't do it. The Jewish people. The first time in history, since Matan Torah, the first time in the history of the world, that an entire nation did exactly, had the attitude of Abraham, namely, I don't care about myself at all. All I want to do is what God wants, was on Purim. The first time. As we're going to learn, God willing, tomorrow, come on time.